citizen concerns.
I do.
Hello, Mark.
Hi. Mark Weber, 836 Cherry Street. Back in January, Judy Hagan had asked me if I would do come up with some sort of a timeline. She kind of found out that I kind of like history, and I would come up with a timeline for the parks, all the different parks that we have, like when they became parks and that. So I started digging into it, and the more I went into it, I just kept finding so much information that it turned out to be a 30-page report. And I gave her one, and I made 3 copies I wanted to give you. I thought you 3 might find it interesting to have. It's just every park, and even a couple that aren't even here anymore, and how they were named, how they came to be, when they came to be, and so how we paid for them and things like that. So
Thank you very much.
so here you go.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, and then I thought if you think it's worthwhile, maybe if the PrAC members might want it too, maybe we can figure out a way to get them copies or something. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Okay, under old business, we have Riverside Park can stands. And I noticed in the budget, we have $25,000 in there toward that, which is good. And as of this date, I have 4 people that have come before me, and 2 that I believe will probably be adding on an additional 5,000 so each. And inclusive playground, does anybody have anything on that? Splash pad, does anybody have anything new on that yet? I know we were looking at either Rotary or Riverside Park, so hopefully we will be able to do that. Under new business, I have a review of administration requests for additional funding for Rotary Park Pavilion. Would you like to chat about that, Bridget?
Yes, as mentioned in an email I think I sent out about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, Rotary is now in their final stages with their construction plans and estimates. And essentially, the utilities are coming in higher than anticipated originally. Council originally set aside $35,000 for that endeavor for the utilities, but due to the high-pressure gas lines that cross the property out there at Rotary Park, the gas company is requiring certain measures be taken, which are coming in at a higher price point, as well as power requirements are coming in at an increased cost versus what they had budgeted originally. And then there's several items that are either a systemic maintenance, sustainability issue for the city that we requested them to incorporate it into their plans. One being the standing seam roof. The second one being tiling in the restrooms, being at a higher level and a higher grade, so it's easier to maintain and clean. We had the power requirements addition from a 100 amp service to a 200 amp service to accommodate a variety of crock pots that may show up at any one given time. And there was one other item, and I'm trying off the top of my head to remember that, but let me pull up an email that I sent out and see if that jogs my memory. But anyways, those items kind of total roughly about an additional $47,000. And so administration is making the request to council, whether considering the amended budget during this process, to look to add an additional $47,000 towards the Rotary Park Pavilion project and increase that up to the total of $93,000, $92,000.
What's your thoughts, Jonathan?
Or $82,000.
Well, to make it clear, I do have to abstain from a recommendation as well. What I can speak to is I know I think some of these requirements that the city is requesting here is for further development of the park in the future. Am I incorrect in that statement? With the sidewalks and...
There is some additional sidewalk work around the perimeter of about maybe 10, 12 parking spaces. Those parking spaces would be the closest spaces to the pavilion. So we thought it'd be nice for people to be able to get out of their car, hop onto a sidewalk, and go up to the pavilion. That's if and when an inclusive park comes into Rotary Park, that would be placed just north of this pavilion, so we can continue that sidewalk to that particular area as well. So it does have some ability to expand into the future as future activities take place out there.
your thoughts, Gina?
They seem reasonable to me, and it's for improvement of a park that will be probably used a lot.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone's thoughts were okay on that. Would you like to vote to put that into the budget or wait on that? Is there a rush on that?
We would just ask that it be part of the reading and passage of the budget at the March 17th council meeting.
So it would be a first reading on it?
The budget will
No
actually
budget.
be placed for a
So you
second.
want to put it in as a placeholder? then?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel about that, Gina?
Sounds a good idea.
That's right. Okay. 2-0. We'll send that to council then.
Thank you.
Sure. And then review of other administration proposals for amendments to the 2020 budget. And I will refer to you once again, Bridget.
So in the amended budget packet that was sent out several weeks ago, we added several items, some of which are specific to the parks, and I'm going to go through those and find those real quick. I think those all lie in the 403 and 404 fund. So in the 403 fund, we are asking for a remote control hillside mower. That's approximately $38,000 for the public service departments. That would be utilized in 3 main areas that are very difficult and dangerous for us to mow. One of those is Riverside Park in certain areas that don't have prairie growing in them. One is the sledding hill over at River Crest Park. And the third is on all the interchange on and off ramps at the Divergent Diamond. We think we can utilize this in other areas as well, but those are like the main ones, as well as doing some mowing along the ponds at Three Meadows.
Is that for Davis Overlook as well, or is that?
Davis Overlook is a potential because that hillside also has been planted with prairie grasses, but I don't think the entire hillside is, so it could come in handy there as well. We've had one demonstration of the item, I think, last fall, which prompted us, it was originally in the original 2020 budget, but as we were trying to make everything balanced based on the revenue estimates at the time, that was one of the items that we removed from the budget before council passed it. So we were looking to add that back in, and after further discussion with the city staff about the dangers that they incur.
I was going to ask you, what's the safety factor with
And that's the main reason actually for this, is because these slopes are definitely greater than a 3-to-1 slope. They actually.
I'm working, not the danger factor of the mowing themselves right now, the danger factor of a remote control mower. What's the safety of those?
Oh, that is very safe.
Okay.
Very safe.
I didn't know if they
Much
had-
safer than city staff trying to mow it, either
Roomba with
utilizing
the
a riding implement or utilizing hand propel lawnmowers. But no, there's a very large safety factor.
So as long as it doesn't roll into somebody's house, that would not be good. Or somebody that would.
Then we also added items in here under the 403 that were mentioned at our last committee meeting, I think, which is, continuing to maintain Meyer Field. We had the public-private partnership this past winter, redoing the fields, playing surfaces. So we're looking to upgrade the backstops and the outfield fencing, adding outfield fencing that's flexible enough that we can also still continue to have some of our summer rec programs in that space.
Bridget, is that part of that 72,000 that I remember we discussed about Meyer Field?
That was for the actual resurfacing and irrigation of the playing field.
Okay.
So this would be in addition to that.
Okay.
So this would look to either replace the backstop fencing and or put new fencing in out in the outfield, which has been a request that's been made to us several times over the years, and we've never quite gotten there. So that's what that would be for. And we've been put on notice by the Wood County Health Department that we need to make sure that any appliances that we have in our concession stands, whether it be at the pool, Rivercrest Park, need to have commercial grade appliances in it, refrigerators, freezers, versus a residential type unit. So we've gotten some quotes, and we think that'll bring us up to speed and up to date on that. We also asked for dollars for erosion control at Three Meadows Pond. That's approximately $75,000. That's based on a quotation that we received given that dollar amount, if approved by council, we would certainly go through the bid process for that. And then lastly, as noted by Councilwoman Moore, in the 404 fund, which is the park improvement fund, we have requested the addition of $25,000 for cannon stands for the cannons that currently exist at Riverside.
I'm pleased to see that. That'd be great for the community. And my question, going back to the Rotary idea, you mentioned something about it could come out of the park acquisition fund for something about unencumbered funds.
Yes, our original thought was since the $35,000 that was originally approved by council is out of the 404 fund.
Right.
We were looking to just take additional dollars that in the fund balance of the 404 fund, there are monies available, but they're not appropriated and made available for use. So our original thought was to appropriate unappropriated dollars through this amended budget process. But in our last committee meeting, Councilman Matuzak suggested that perhaps those additional dollars come out of the 404 capital improvement fund.
Right.
Because we know that we have some under expenditure in one of the line items for the State Route 25 US 20 ODOT resurfacing project coming up this summer.
I was going to say we could also take it out of the, I really don't want to mess with the baseball field improvements, and that's important. But the riverfront park improvements, we could take some out of that as well, if need be.
And that's
I was just thinking.
council's discretion.
I was just thinking that would be something that you may run into more costs possibly over at Rotary Park. So that'd be my thought on that. What do any of you think of that? Gina?
I would be interested in what that 50,000 in that was earmarked for.
It was just earmarked for general improvements to the park.
I think
We
there's
do
an
have some-
irrigation issue that's going on down in River.
There is a lack of irrigation down at the lower level of Riverside Park, so those funds could be utilized for that. There is some furniture that we currently have in storage, some sunshades, and I don't think I think all the seating has been acquired, but we were considering placing some sort of tables down there that folks could take their laptop down and work out by the river if they wanted. But in general, those dollars, anything over 25,000 would certainly come back through this
Right.
committee.
Right.
Absolutely.
As necessary.
Then that's fine. That's fine.
Fine, good.
Yeah.
To take some out of that?
Yeah.
How much would you want to take out of that?
I would like to know what line item these.
Oh, right here.
No, not that. I'm more wondering about
The one we just discussed.
The 25?
where the $47,000, what fund specifically was it suggested they were coming out of?
We specifically suggested out of the 404 fund.
Just 404 in general?
Yes, because that is where the original 35,000.
Yeah.
So in other words, we really don't need to make a decision on which one, it's just whatever's going to be left over in the fund. If I understand that correctly.
In the 404, you would have to, if you want to keep it in the 404 and what you're saying, replace it with the riverfront park improvements, you wouldn't need to appropriate any additional dollars. You would simply, I think at your council meeting, want to make a motion to remove riverfront park improvements and replace that with the Rotary Park,
That makes
million
sense.
additional dollars.
What I'm looking through here too is, because I'm looking at the actual details of all the funds in the 404. And I'm trying to figure out where the unencumbered balance is. Is it from the municipal park? Is it from Woodlands? Which I'm assuming Woodlands is for the parking. And then the rest is earmarked here towards the 51206 fund.
So if you,
Which is
it's
it?
easier for me to show you on this. So the fund balance of the fund
Is two.
is 243,000
Yes.
right there. So it would come from that balance and be appropriated to then put up whatever the appropriate line would be, unless you wanted to swap it out for something that's already appropriate.
Because I don't even see the 35,000 listed on.
That, and I have to double check with Dave Krebs because that may be encumbered.
I would just be curious to see exactly where that
But that would have come out of it should have come out of there's a specific one for Rotary in here.
And that's what I wasn't seeing on there. So I know that 35,000 was set aside. I'm just curious. what it
Yes,
is in that.
I'll verify that with our finance director, because I know in the original creation of that park, I think it was also called Rivercrest. Might have been like East-West or something like that before the name was changed. So it could fall under Rivercrest.
Rivercrest shows $0 in there right now.
Yeah.
That is correct, so I need to ask our finance director where
I'm
those
curious to
dollars
see
are.
where the money is first, and let's start from there.
But we can certainly send that information out to all of this committee prior to the next council meeting.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything else?
No, I think really hasn't been too many changes.
Okay. So we've decided on the next one, on what we were just discussing, we're going to chew on that, or are we going to send it to council? What was the vote on that? Do you want to vote on that, or wait?
I think that the conversation will happen at council to go to reappropriate the funds. I would like to know where the 35,000 is first as well, so that way we know where we're putting it.
Sounds
Instead
good
of
to me.
just pulling it out somewhere and I said know where it's going to go.
Okay. I know that, I believe there was money left over from the roads, and I believe Mr. Matusek pointed that out before. So that might be something as well.
That's the other thing would like to know is how much money is actually left over from the roads. That might be the easiest for that.
Okay. All right, we can bring it up. Let's see, under YMCA agreement for swimming pool. I don't know if anybody's, are you here for that? Look like a friendly face. Come on up, Mr. Shivers.
This is.
State your name and where you're from.
Each of you.
Steve Shives, I reside 24568 Tracy Road, Perrysburg. I know we've submitted the agreement for the YMCA. I know I've met with Bridget, Rob Ross for the 2020 operating season and would just be here to entertain any questions. I know we are in full preparation mode as we are a couple months out from opening.
Well, something that has always been posed to me many times, and perhaps you have the answer. People always wonder why it opens so late and closes so early.
We generally have worked with the city and followed the school schedule. This year we bumped it back a week because the school is getting out early this year with their school schedule. We've typically run into some bad weather earlier in the year. I know last year we didn't even open on the first day because of cold water, cold temperatures, so we decided to move it back to May 30th this year. We close, I believe, the 17th, something like that.
It's mid-August.
Yeah, it's mid-August, so hopefully we'll have a little bit warmer weather in mid-August. The challenge is running it later in the season. We've tried it a couple years ago. Staffing becomes an issue. So with the design of the pool, it's not a staff-friendly pool to try and guard because of all the nooks and crannies in it. You can't just have a couple of lifeguards. You need guards dedicated for the slide. You need guards dedicated for the diving well, the shallow end, the zero entry, the lap area. So it's a labor-heavy guard pool to do. So
Do you ever use, I know you probably use a lot of college students. Do you use high school students? In the
we do.
past?
We do both high school and college students. We lose a lot of the college students once school starts, but once August gets here, we lose a lot of the high school students because of sports and extracurricular activities start up. So staffing becomes a problem. When we did try it a couple years ago, we also noticed usage went way down once school started, so it was a cost benefit. You know, you always have people that want to keep it open later, but from a financial decision, do you really have the usage to justify that?
Well, I know the public would like it, so that's what they keep saying. So just
They did, and
let
when
you
we
know.
tried it, they didn't come. So
Well, maybe if they know the hours, or maybe if they know more about the hours when you're open.
Yeah.
Maybe getting that out to the media and letting them know. Maybe.
possible. Staffing becomes a problem though.
One thing
So
that I recall from last year too is when when the pool opened up, in the first few days, it was too cold to go in. And I think that's one of the other issues we deal with the pool as well is it's not heated for one, and when
Yes.
the weather doesn't warm up quick enough, it cools off too quick, it affects the ability to use the pool, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the water was a little brisk last year through the first middle of June.
I recall a few complaints that we received.
We got them as well. So yes.
I see you have it closing August 1st, or no, August 16th. Have you ever thought about just reopening for like Labor Day weekend, or do you guys do that?
We had looked at that in the
Yeah.
past, and I just remember how many thousands of dollars it was to open it
Just for that weekend?
for that weekend.
Because you have to continue to maintain the water chemistry,
Right.
and if you're going to do that for a couple weeks without the pool being used, is it financially worth it? You know, I would probably challenge that. So, I mean, it's expensive to operate the pools and keep them open.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sure.
And does anybody have any questions regarding the municipal pool operating proposal?
I'm actually going through and comparing it with the prior one right now, so this is the first time I received a copy of it.
Pretty similar, I believe.
There's a few things which I'm glad to see is, and you can correct me if this is supposed to be this way or not, but from the one in 2018 to now, that says YMCA on-site personnel, according to this, is everyone will be trained in first aid and CPR, which was not the case previously, unless that is something that,
I don't think we had it written, but all the staff are always trained in CPR first aid. So it's always done. We've just put it in the document now.
yeah, because last year, I think not last year, but 2 years ago, it said with the exception of concession stand front desk employees, so.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
glad to see
requirement now as an employee to be trained in CPR first aid for the
That's
line.
wonderful.
We actually included that in the 19 proposal last year. That was, so they had a contract with automatic one-year renewals.
Mhm.
So we got a proposal from them in 19 because it stayed within the 2% threshold. It didn't require council authorization. And that was a new addition last year. I know.
Yes.
Now, with that note as well, I don't see, and that's one of the things I immediately looked at as well on here, is it doesn't have that provision that was on there in 2018. It was the terms contract shall renew for 2 1-year terms, provided the cost of the service increases by no more than 3%.
Right.
Am I missing that on here? Is this
No,
gonna be
you're not. At this point, it's just a one-year proposal, and we're at, they've remained very consistent within that 2% threshold from year to year. Even going into this year, I think you're just under 2%.
Yes,
Or just at.
we work hard to control the
Yes.
costs.
But I just recall just hoping
Yes.
to save you some time so you didn't have to come here every year. as
Sure.
well.
Well, I don't
I mean,
mind
we
coming
can
here.
certainly add that similar language to the actual legislation.
Yeah, I will share with you that I asked Laura that before the meeting. I did ask about the 3%.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I mean, everything else looks pretty well the same from what I'm catching here, just different dates, obviously, so. This is 2020, not 2018.
Right.
I see we're doing the triathlon and the dog dip still, so that's great.
Very
It was
popular.
a big hit.
The doggy dip is very popular, but not with your maintenance department. so.
Oh, yeah.
I can only imagine the
Yes.
that happening. Otherwise, I'm okay. If we want to do this as another year one, I'm okay with it. And if you guys want to look at doing the 2 year for 3%, I'm okay either way.
We can write the legislation in that way and.
I would add the percentage.
Yeah, I have no, I think it's a good idea. Okay.
Okay.
And then it also gives you some continuity and not having to worry and come back.
Yep. I'm always happy to come back and answer questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate what you do. Thank you. Under the PrAC report, I don't have anything to report because they haven't met and they won't meet until April.
April 6th.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
I see the census going up there, is up running up there, kind of,
Which ones are you referring to?
paddleball.
Oh, at pickleball court at
Yes.
Milton Park.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
pickle, I'm sorry. Pickleball.
And they're excited.
I'm sure they are.
And another in a word, so.
Crack makes me think of that, something.
I wanted to take the time to ask him to come up, please. Damon?
Yes.
Coors, did I say it correctly?
Coors.
Okay, Damon Coors. he's going to talk a little bit about the lacrosse/soccer wall.
Yep. So, this is a proposal. I will freely admit I kind of borrowed some of this from a place in Massachusetts because it's a challenge to find some information here. So, I'm formerly of Perrysburg Youth Lacrosse. I was one of the board members on Perrysburg Youth Lacrosse as my daughters migrated to high school. I've stepped away, but the board asked me to come in and speak to this about it, and I've done some things in the past. A little background about lacrosse in Perrysburg. One thing you guys may not know, recently we were actually in U.S. Lacrosse magazine. Perrysburg was recognized. We have the largest lacrosse program in Northwest Ohio. We're currently in the high school, we have over 100 kids. The youth program, K-8, is the largest one we have in Northwest Ohio, over 200 kids playing. It's completely parent funded. We don't have any money coming in other than what we do and what we fundraise on ourselves. Through that, we've managed to grow exponentially, in particular on the girls' side. We're probably averaging 15 to 20% growth almost on a yearly basis. And if you follow women in leadership, there's a wonderful correlation between girls that play high school sports and C-suite executives. It's almost like a 90% correlation, off the chart ridiculous. So it's been a really great opportunity for kids in the community. One of the things we're very proud of is anybody who comes in the program, whether you've never held a stick in 8th grade and you washed out another sport, we will find a home for you. In the high school, it's a no-cut sport. So all that said, we've grown a lot. We actually helped a couple other communities, most recently Anthony Wayne, start their own girls rec program. So we worked with Anthony Wayne, we're working with Clay. And where this is coming all about to is a need for a multi-purpose sports wall. So included in here is what a wall, and it's just what it is. It's a wall, freestanding wall. It's a place for kids to actually bounce the ball off with their sticks. And the best way to practice lacrosse is with a wall, so kids can practice on themselves. Why we say it's a multi-purpose wall is where you can traditionally use it for other sports. You can use it certainly for soccer. My wife is a volleyball player. She's like, you can actually bump it with a volleyball. And depending on where you would put it at, some communities actually attach it to a tennis court so people can play tennis, bouncing it back and forth. Perrysburg doesn't have anything like that. So right now, where the kids are limited to trying to sneak onto an elementary school, Hall Prairie, Scott is very patient. Scott Best is very patient with us. But I think everybody would like to actually have a facility located. One of the other additional benefits, this is a destination attraction. So whatever park you place it at, people will come to it. So that sometimes will help utilization, increase use. The primary lacrosse area right now for Perrysburg is Woodland. That's where all our fields are. It's a joint project through the school. They are outgrowing it. I think they're going to be here. I'd worked a little bit with Bridget and those guys, hoping to try and secure additional fields. But as we are a parent-run organization, things sometimes move a little slower as demands of other jobs take place. But I have a feeling they're going to come back because I know they're just growing at a great rate. And on the plus side, if you're a Perrysburg High School fan, the girls have won the league multiple times. We actually had 3 Division I lacrosse girls scholarship athletes last year alone, going to Akron, UMC Baltimore, and I want to say Butler, but I'm maybe off on that last one. And then I know this last year, at least one of the seniors is already signed with Urbana on the women's side, and then also we have another one. There's only 3 seniors on the team. The other one is signed with Acadia. So it is a great opportunity this way for girls to earn some additional money. So what questions do you have for me? And I will fully admit some of the pricing in here is my best guess. I have not priced it with any vendor, and some of these prices are going to be East Coast.
That's going to be my first question.
Okay.
How much would it cost?
So I've not priced it here. So I took the pricing from Massachusetts because it's a little bit limited in the Midwest to find it. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at price off Midwest and I did off Massachusetts East Coast pricing, best guess was like 15 to 20. It could be conceivably less here, knowing that we probably are. It's a little bit cheaper here than it is on the East Coast, just a fact of life. But I didn't want to come in low and have you guys get into something and say, that guy's nuts. So I kind of went higher thinking that we might be lower because it's always better to kind of go the opposite.
That's good business.
Yeah.
Rolfe Park, I don't know if it's still there or not, but back when I was in high school, they had a soccer wall.
Yep.
It was all wood. if I recall correctly. I don't remember how much we really used it in practice, but I know it was there. If lacrosse, and I'm looking at the administration on this, so right now lacrosse currently plays at Woodland Park.
No, they play at Woodland Elementary
Elementary
School.
school.
They
It's
play
not
on
the park.
school property, not
Yeah.
not at a passive city park.
Yeah.
Is there been any talks of the city creating designated lacrosse fields?
No, there has not.
Okay.
No, we are currently working with a multitude of organizations,
know field
Laura,
space is
myself,
always
and
a-
Rob, trying to allocate field space for youth sports without overusing the fields, and also coming up with a game plan to enhance those fields. And we're into, I don't know, week 40, it feels like. I'm doing this. But lacrosse has not approached us. We've talked with youth baseball, youth softball, youth soccer, a couple different organizations there, adult soccer, rugby, CYO,
Cross country.
cross country, high school, on a variety of sports. So we're hopefully coming to the end.
And we've met with the schools on their use of some of our parks as well. So,
As I recall, maybe you can help me understand, didn't you come before us talking about something like that?
We did come before you guys trying to get additional field space, and the one place that was suggested was it Bicentennial?
Bicentennial, I think you were playing Orleans for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had a field over at Orleans, and just quite honestly, we were working, we would overflood you guys with parking, and we thought that would be challenging for the residents because the parking was somewhat limited. And
In Bicentennial Park.
yes, and then so we used Orleans for a little while. So actually, what we did is we paid on our own to relay out our fields over at Woodland Schools to fit it in. So that's bought us the 2 years. The question I put to them, and they're looking at this year as we're getting our numbers for spring, is like, how much before we're full there? And because right now we're juggling 4 nights, going till, I think they're doing a 6 to 9, 6 to 8, depending on that. So that's kind of the challenge that they're running to, but I let them, they'll come to you with that as a request, but I know that's what we're seeing is the growth is just exponentially. U.S. nationally, it's actually the fastest growing sport in the country. So we're not alone. Clay just most recently added their own program.
I'm kind of wondering about on the west side too. I think you and I kind of just talked recently about that, maybe about some areas that might be a little bit larger, like a municipal park, or Rivercrest Park, or a Rotary Park.
It'd be nice to have something on both sides of the town to kind of balance it. I live 1533 Riverview Court, so I am on the west side. So we drive everywhere, but obviously for the younger kids, they don't have a way to get there. So, as parents, we're driving all the way over there if they want to do any sort of practicing. So it would be nice to have maybe something where they could actually bike and get to a little bit on their own and walk to it. So.
Are you looking for an answer tonight or just information?
I wanted to provide information. I wanted to put my information on there. You guys can kind of assess, take a look at it. I know there's always challenging priorities. I would like to even reach out to some of the soccer teams to see, because it is a multi-purpose wall, because the big advantage is it's not just our sport. So multiple sports anybody can figure out how they need to bounce something against a wall, can use this as a sport. I actually played soccer growing up, so I used my kickball quite a bit. Actually, our coach had it numbered, and he would make us count off sequences, and if you didn't hit it, you had to run. So we got really good at hitting sequences.
Burning is what you do all the time.
Yeah. So, but that's where you can kind of use it really depending on how it's placed, and you guys are the experts far beyond me on that, but you can actually incorporate it certainly for multiple sports that way too. And it gets the kids active, and it's always a great way for them to be able to practice on their own.
Well, I will certainly share with my public service director, myself and Laura, as we're going through the midst of field allocation and field renovation.
One quick question with Bicentennial Park, Lance administration, is I know that property behind Dr. McCauley's court is technically part of the park, and there was some talk of tiling that.
That had been tiled several years ago.
I know it's still having some drainage issues. Has there been any talks of fixing it? No, one time that was suggested being an additional soccer field.
It was just retiled actually like 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I will get with the folks who were part of that project and ask them to reevaluate, because that's the first I've heard that.
Well, I run through, the house just doesn't live right there. I run through.
No, but that's the first that I heard that that particular field space had issues.
It was probably about 2 years when I had gone through that, and I just knew that it hadn't happened, but I know that the path gets flooded all the time.
The path, that path had not been tiled.
Okay.
That, it was strictly that rectangular area that was tiled.
That's it, just being an actual call
Yeah.
store. Okay.
But I will have someone check it out.
Once the heavy rains come in the spring, might be good just to look and see if there's still any issues with it. And
Yes, and if there are heavy rains, there'll be issues at every single park, yeah. Every single one. But I will have somebody follow up on it.
I just know that that would be a decent practice field space at the very least, or at least something to start with. And,
You know, the challenge with that is that there is very limited parking, and when administration brought before council, I think a year and a half ago, to create additional parking, that was removed from the budget.
The residents didn't want it, as I recall.
I'm one of those residents.
Yes.
But yeah, it's for a.
So it's very limited for use of any teams of any nature because there is not enough parking spaces. People park on public streets, which is perfectly legal, but then there are complaints from the residents.
Sure, they want to get inside out of their
You
driveway.
either have to add more parking within the park and take up park space, or you have to be prepared to deal with phone calls.
Yeah.
So any other additional questions for me or anything I can answer?
Not
So,
for me.
all right, first girls prac game is scrimmage this Saturday in Magnificat. They're playing here, so if you get a chance, come out and watch them play, and it should be kind of fun, and they should be pretty good this year.
Where are they
So,
playing at?
it's here at Perrysburg, 10 a.m. is the scrimmage with Magnificat
Where specifically?
at the stadium.
Oh, at the stadium.
Yeah, yeah. So they play in the stadium, and it's a fun-growing sport. So
I've seen all of you play.
yes,
And I think you really have a nice organization, so.
It's been nice, and it's been great to partner with some of the other communities. We've actually worked, Bowling Green is in the work. The big rumor, and purely rumors, that BG is going to have a women's lacrosse program. The MAC has added actually as a sport this last year.
Yeah.
So if BG does, Toledo's probably a little further behind, but if that happens, this will even explode the growth further. So
I think I told you before when I went to BGSU. I played, just intramural,
Yeah.
but I played that lacrosse. It was fun.
it's a fun sport. Yeah.
Coach Brock is a friend of, was a friend of mine.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Is a friend of mine, I should say. So,
Yeah, we actually have we have a college ref who's one of the national college refs, lives in Perrysburg on the boys' side, does like Big Ten games, and then, so. But anything I do, I don't want to take up all your time. I could talk lacrosse all day.
Oh, I
So,
really appreciate all the information. Thank you
thanks.
very
Feel free to
much.
reach out to me for any questions.
Thank you so much. And do we have any other individuals who'd like to come up and chat about anything? I think I see somebody from the baseball team. Thank you very much.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Tim McGrady. I am actually the new president of PABSC. Hadn't had the pleasure of meeting everyone yet. I've met with Bridget and Laura previously, and so just wanted to be able to have you guys put a name with a face, and so if there's any business with PABSC, you know who I am. So just wanted to state that, and I appreciate you letting me have an opportunity to speak this evening.
You said Tim McGrady?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Can you state your address?
oh, I'm sorry, 401 West Front Street.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I get that a lot.
Does anyone else have anything else to add? Okay, I move to adjourn. Yep.